that's going to bring me to my third and final play, and new Aljamain Sterling over Petr Yan. So the UFC doesn't really like Aljamain Sterling. They definitely seem to be biased towards strikers like Petr Yan, and negatively biased towards grapplers like Aljamain Sterling. Plus, they're definitely annoyed with him. A few years ago, he was complaining about wanting to make more money or whatever. But you could make the case that Aljamain Sterling's already the champion. Going into this fight against Cory Sandhagen last year, the UFC bantamweight title was vacant. They were both on winning streaks. If it was a true meritocracy, that fight between Aljamain Sterling and Cory Sandhagen probably should have been for the belt, especially when you see what Cory Sandhagen has done since then. And if Aljo was already the champ, again, looking at what Sandhagen has done since then, he might be the favorite in this matchup, and I think he should be. I always like to try and find an opponent from each fighter that's similar to their upcoming opponent. In Sterling's case, is Jimmy Rivera. Both Rivera and Petr Yan, very boxing heavy. They both like to use offensive wrestling, although Yan uses it a bit more. They both have excellent takedown defense, and Sterling dominated the fight against Rivera. Clean, unanimous 30-27 victory. So we've seen that against that stylistic matchup, he can be successful. Again, Yan is better overall, pretty much at everything, than Rivera. But it's not like the fight between him and Rivera was close. And Rivera had a lot of success in his fight with Petr Yan. He won the first round against Petr Yan. He had a lot of success in the second round against Yan. That's kind of Yan's style, though. He's kind of a slow starter. He likes to load information, try to figure you out. If that fight with Rivera went 5 rounds, he's probably knocking out Rivera because he really did start to figure him out as the fight went on, which is a big issue in this fight against Sterling because he's so unorthodox. You can't figure him out because he does things. He never does the same thing twice, and he does things that you're not supposed to do. So for Yan, if he's going to fight that same sort of patient style that we've seen from him in his other fights, even against Jose Aldo, we saw Aldo have a lot of success against him early. If he's going to fight that way against Sterling, he might be down 2 rounds before he gets any kind of idea of what he wants to do in there. For Yan, I mean, it's really hard to find someone like Aljamain Sterling, but the closest guy would be someone that he fought outside of the UFC, Magomed Magomedov, who now fights in Bellator. 17-1 is Magomedov, his only loss coming to Yan, so he's a really good fighter. Yan lost the first fight and then came back, showed massive improvements in his wrestling, his takedown defense, and was able to squeeze out a 48-47 victory in the second fight. So he had a tough time against a fighter that was stylistically kind of similar to Aljamain Sterling. If you watch that fight, and you can watch it on YouTube, the last 2 minutes of that fight really could have went either way. If Magomedov was able to put in with that last push, maybe land another takedown or something like that, he could have stolen that fight. Another interesting tidbit is that Sterling's actually trained with Magomedov, and he says he feels like he's a level above Magomedov in the wrestling. But even if he's not, people are talking way too much about Aljamain Sterling's wrestling. This guy has really evolved as an overall mixed martial artist. He hasn't landed a takedown in any of his 3 most recent fights. So Petr Yan having really good takedown defense, people are making too big a deal about that. Aljo will take what you'll give him, right? So if you're just going to be focused on stopping the takedowns, he'll just light you up on the feet, and then he'll wait until he sees your guard up, and then he'll go for the takedown. And he doesn't necessarily need to land it. He'll put you up against the cage, work you in the clinch, a la Kamaru Usman. But to me, for Yan to win, I feel like he has to knock out Sterling. I think if it goes to decision, that's going to be in Sterling's favor. I also think that Sterling could submit Yan, so there are more routes to victory for Sterling than there are for Yan. That's why I'm going to take a shot here with Aljamain Sterling. Missed the boat on this one. He was plus 110 for the longest time. Then at one point it came down to pick him. It's up at plus 100 now, and that's what I got it at, plus 102. So that's still pretty good. Like I said, I think he should be the favorite. So give me and new Aljamain Sterling for my third and final play. So that's it for the plays. I'll talk about a little bit about the co-main and the main event. Megan Anderson versus Amanda Nunes.